kitties are sleeping. It's not a garbage pickup today. So let's hope that we can get through this video with minimal distractions, minimal background noise, and we can just go through it. So I'm gonna be doing the mid-year book tag. Yeah, it's the middle of June, but it's like cold and gloomy here today, so I felt like being cozy. So far, as of right now, I'm filming this towards the end of June. I have read 92 books so far this year, so I'm gonna talk about some of them within the questions within the tag today, and then I'm thinking I'll still probably do like a mid-year favorites video in the next couple weeks of just highlighting some of my favorite books that I've read so far. I don't really like doing like disappointing reads because I don't really want to talk about the books that I didn't like. I want to talk about the books that I love. So we're going to talk today though through all the questions. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. Question number one is best book that you've read so far, which is hard. It was hard to narrow it down, but this is the only one that felt right, and that is Know My Name by Chanel Miller. This is a memoir written by Chanel Miller. If you aren't familiar, maybe if you're around my age, you definitely probably do remember the case with Brock Turner, the woman that he sexually assaulted in college. She remained as Emily Doe throughout the entire investigation and afterwards, but then she finally revealed her name and told her story in her book here. And this book was just beautiful. It was frustrating to read because, like, as a woman, I just feel like I just had so many feelings reading everything that Chanel was writing, and there were so many points where I was like, yes, like it was just like, you are hitting the nail on the head here. She just told her story in such a beautiful way that I'm not a big person for anything that's like not fiction, but I literally couldn't put this book down, and it just, I think it is leaps and bounds the best book that I've read so far this year. If you aren't really into things that are like not fiction or like autobiographies or anything, I get it, but like this is worth every single page. It is just beautiful, and I highly, highly, highly recommend. Just make sure that you know going into it for triggers and that it is just an emotionally heavy book, but it's really worth the read. Question number two is best sequel so far this year, and it had to go to A Court of Silver Flames. Now, granted, this is like the spin-off, you know, like it's not following the same characters as the original series, but this is still in the same series, and it's technically, I'm gonna say it's a sequel because I think so. And even though it's Nesta and Cassian, and I mean, this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and it did not disappoint me whatsoever. I went into this, I mean, I was excited to continue on in the world, but I was interested in getting more of Cassian's character, but I wasn't like super intrigued by Nesta. I thought she was fine, but I wasn't like the biggest fan of her. But this just, it really hit every point I wanted it to. Definitely upped the spice game too, which I appreciate, especially since it's marketed as adult. If it was YA, that's different, but like it's an adult book, and I like the spice level. I already have a whole reading vlog up on this, so you can check that out on my channel as well. So you can hear like live in-depth reaction thoughts in the moment. And yeah, you can go and check that out if you want, but this definitely earned best sequel for me. Okay, question number three is a new release that you haven't read yet. So there are, I mean, obviously a lot, because I feel like my TBR is never ending. But When Heroes Fall by Gianna Darling is one that I'm really, really anticipating getting to, and one that I definitely want to get to soon. It's a mafia kind of continuation. I just finished Enthralled this past month, and I need to read Enamored, that's book 2, and then When Heroes Fall and When Villains Rise, these two books, they also feature characters from that duet. So they're all kind of like interconnected, not really. So I want to finish Enamored so then I can read When Heroes Fall. And I'm just really excited. I think Gianna Darling's writing is A+. And I'm always down for a mafia story. And I think this duet specifically sounds so cool. I think Elena's like a lawyer who has to defend Dante and like a criminal investigation, and in his house arrest he like asks her to live with him. I'm just intrigued. I'm really excited to read this, and I think pretty much anything that Gianna Darling releases, I read. Okay, question number 4 is most anticipated release in the last half of 2021. So here's the thing, I feel like a lot of my releases that I was really looking forward to already happened this year, but this one is literally happening next week and I'm very excited for it, and that is Lessons in Sin by Pam Godwin. Once again, I hate this cover. I talked about it in my pre-order / haul video that I did earlier this week, and the cover is just not it, but I'm so excited for this book. So this follows, it's a student teacher but then also like a priest trope on top of it. I don't know what it is about a priest trope lately. I feel like I'm always talking about the priest trope. But Sierra Simone really did something to me with priest. So this one follows, I think it's at a Catholic school, and it follows a girl who then falls in love with her teacher, who obviously he's a priest. Anything forbidden, student teacher, taboo, I love and I want. So I can't wait for this. What number are we on? I don't know, but biggest disappointment of the year. That was very easy. That is Gabriel's Inferno by Sylvain Reynard. So if you don't know, student teacher is one of my all-time favorite tropes. You recommend a book to me and label it as student teacher, like I'm ready to read it. It's going to the top of my TBR. So I thought that this was like the penultimate, like end all be all student teacher book. It was not good. I didn't like it. I thought that the writing, I said in my wrap-ups of it, I thought that the writing felt very like pretentious to me. I hated the way that Julia was written. I didn't like the way that Gabriel was written. I didn't like either of the characters. I didn't feel any chemistry between the two of them. I didn't like the plot. I didn't like Julia's character at all. I didn't like Gabriel at all. I didn't like any of the side characters. I literally didn't like anything about this. And they're so long. Like they drag on for so long. I read the first book and I have a problem with not finishing series, or I have a problem with like quitting series when I'm part of the way through. So I was like, no, I'll pick up the second book. Maybe it ramps up, because also there was like zero spice and I was annoyed. There's like one scene at the end of the first book and I was like, you know, come on, what are we doing here? I love a slow burn, but like this was just annoying to me. So then in the second book, I'm like, maybe there will be more. And it was still just like not it. And there's a third book and I listened to the second book on audio. I'm not going to bother ever reading the third book because I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't care about these characters at all. And it was by far my biggest disappointment because I had really high expectations for this series and it just completely like tanked. Then we have biggest surprise of the year, which I think will be surprising for other people because I know her fans are ride or die. And that is going to be It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. So last year I read Hopeless and Confess. And I was like, I don't get the hype. I don't get it. I didn't really like Hopeless. I think I ended up only giving that one like 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was fine, but I was like, I don't really think this is anything special or memorable. And then I read Confess, and again, I was like, this is fine. I liked it more than Hopeless, but again, I'm like, I wasn't really getting it, and I was kind of like, I don't really get the Colleen Hoover hype. Then I read It Ends With Us, and everything changed. So this was a huge surprise for me because I went into this not really expecting to love it. This is kind of like my last ditch. I'm like, I'm gonna try one more time. I'm gonna try Colleen Hoover one more time. And now I was like, this is amazing. Then I've read Ugly Love and I was like, that was amazing too. I think I was just reading maybe the wrong books for me, but this one, this book was a masterpiece. This is perfection. This will be in my top 10 of 2021. I already know that. It follows this woman named Lily and I think she moves to a new town, right? And she meets this guy on a rooftop one night and they kind of like hit it off, but then they go their separate ways and then they re-find each other again. And they're like, you know, starting to kind of, you know, date, mess around a little bit, whatever. And then they're at dinner one night and she runs into her ex-boyfriend from high school and kind of like these memories start coming back up. So then it's told in like dual timelines of her spending time with Atlas when they were teenagers and kind of learning about their history, and then her present with Ryle, kind of going back and forth. It's not super love triangle-y, because I don't like that. I don't like a love triangle, and this didn't feel like that to me, but this is heartbreaking. I cried. I loved every moment of it. It made me angry. It made me feel things, and that's what I want. I want my books to make me feel things, and this did that. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to spoil it in case if you haven't read it yet, but if you haven't, and if you've read other Colleen Hoover books and you're kind of like, I don't get it, give this one a try, but please look up triggers beforehand. It was Fictional Crush, and this one was hard because I have a lot, but again, if we're trying to keep it to this year, and I don't really think there is another one, or at least not one that I've reread, because I've done some rereads of my Ultimates, and like they can't ever be beaten. But a new one, Mr. August. What's his last name? It's August something. I don't know. August from Long Shot. Literally one of the most perfect literary men that has ever been written. The most patient, kind, caring, hot, fun, funny, cool, man ever written. Like really, I couldn't ask for anything more out of August, and the way that he interacts with Iris, he just has like true character, you know? Like if he was a real life man, I've said this multiple times, if he was a real life man, I would shoot my shot. There would be no chance in hell for me, but I would shoot it. I'd give it a try. I'd at least put it out there, and then he'd reject it, and I'd be like, you know what, fair. But at least I would know. August. I mean, it's just so good. So this one is a basketball romance set in the NBA. August is a professional basketball player, and it follows him and Iris is dating his rival in the NBA. A lot of shit goes down. I don't want to spoil anything. I've already talked about this book a few times on here as well. I talked about it in my Kindle Unlimited faves. I'll probably be talking about it at the end of the year too. But this is great. And again, look up triggers before reading this too, because there is some stuff in here that could potentially be triggering for some people. But August is just perfection. And I mean, I feel like the guy on here like pretty perfectly encompasses August. Normally I don't like people on the covers, but like when he looks like that, I'm not mad at it. Call me out all you want. This next question was really hard for me to come up with. It was favorite new author, like either debut or new to you, because I genuinely haven't read that many new authors, or like I have, but I don't have anyone that I feel like super stands out, or like I've really liked one of their books but I haven't read enough of their catalog, I feel like, to specifically say that like they are my new favorite author. And I don't know, so I went with the one that was newest to me but that I've also read the most from, and that is Nikki Sloan. I read her entire Nashville Neighbors series and I really enjoyed most of it. The Doctor is by far my favorite, but I liked all of those, and I have a lot of her other books on my TBR by her that I definitely want to get around to at some point. If you're looking for some really steamy stuff, Nikki Sloan delivers. Okay, next is newest favorite characters. I couldn't pick just one because I'm such a character-driven reader that there are so many characters that I've loved so far this year, so I narrowed it down to 3, and I feel like that's doing really good. So in no particular order, I'm just gonna go in the order that they are on my lap. I have Mr. Kaz motherfucking Brecker from Six of Crows. I loved this duology so much, and I loved Kaz Brecker so much, and also Inej. But again, like, I go back and forth, and I almost think that part of the reason that I like love him so much more too is with the show. Like it only like reinforced my love for him and Inej. So I mean, if you've read Six Crows, you probably know why I love Kaz Brecker. I just love like a damaged hero and like anti-hero in a way, and he does bad things. He's a criminal, but he does them for the greater good, so I support it. Anyways, you're gonna notice a theme here, because then the next fictional character that I love this year is Remo Falcone from the Gamora Chronicles, a mafia boss. Another person who does bad things and commits crimes, but yet I'm like, you're doing it for your family. So I excuse it. I love the Gamora Chronicles so much, and Remo is just A+. I feel like from when we first meet him in Twisted Loyalties, which is book 1, and then we see him in that, in the second book, and then we get him in the third book, his depth to his character, and he's so layered, and he's so feared, and like so animalistic at times, but then he's got such like emotional scarring to him, and he loves so hard and he fights hard, and there's something about Remo that I'm just so drawn into as a character. But again, I love an anti-hero, what can I say? And then lastly, we have Bryce Quinlan from Crescent City. I really love Sarah J. Maas's protagonists. I really loved Aelin in Throne of Glass, and I love Feyre in the ACOTAR series. I know Feyre tends to get a lot of slack. I personally really like Feyre, and I like her journey that she went on. And just because she's not like this super fierce warrior like Aelin is, I don't think that diminishes her strength any. But I just really like that Bryce is a very different heroine, and she's like this badass, but she's this party girl, and she doesn't really have a high opinion of herself, and she lets other people not have a high opinion of herself because she doesn't feel like she deserves to have people like her or love her or really even respect her at times. And it's hard to read a character that has that low opinion of themselves when you know that they're like so much better than that, but that's what draws me into her. And Bryce is just fun too. Her in the vacuum, just an iconic moment. Next is a book that made you cry, and I'm also going to throw angry in there as well, and that is After the Fall by Gianna Darling. I talked about this in my wrap-ups when I did it. I was so emotionally distraught at this book, and I was sobbing for a long period of time. Like, I think it took me about, what, like an hour and a half to finish the book when I first started crying to when I finished. And I cried that whole time, like literally that whole time. And then just the end made me very angry. I'm not gonna spoil it. If you know, you know. But for me, there were some things that I was very frustrated with, the little like, hee at the end. I didn't like that because I liked the bold choice. After the Fall made me sob, but it also made me very angry. On the complete other side of that, a book that made me happy, that is Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book I just felt so much joy reading. I think too, I read it in the sunshine, I read it on vacation, so it was just like a good place to be reading it outside by the pool. And it genuinely made me happy. I loved Danny and Zaf. I thought they were so cute. It had such like a rom-com feel to it without ever feeling cheesy to me, which I find hard to find a balance in, especially in like traditionally published books and like rom-coms kind of specifically. And I thought that this had the perfect amount of like heart and laughter and character depth, but also not being like too bogged down in seriousness. It was just kind of like the perfect balance of everything. It did make me feel a certain type of way when Zaf had his panic attacks. I really liked Zaf's character and really related to his character and I thought that it was a very authentic representation of that. So there are certain times in this book where I was like, ooh, like I felt that. But for the most part, the overwhelming feeling that I have when like looking at this book cover again is like joy. So it made me happy. Okay, so for most beautiful book that I've bought or been gifted, I think they have to be my Throne of Glass and ACOTAR collector's editions. I bought these earlier this year. I have them flipped out on my bookcase normally to like display them. So this is the Throne of Glass one. That's the outside, and then you pull the tab and the actual book comes out. And I mean, like they're just beautiful, and they're beautiful on the outside, but then also the formatting on the inside. Like, so you can see the pages inside the page. They have like these symbols and then that in the middle. And then it has the sword on each of the chapter pages. Like it's stunning. And I love the purple and gold on the Throne of Glass one. And then on the ACOTAR one, you have, again, the black and gold on that on the back. Then again, you pull the ribbon and pull it out. I love this cover. It's Feyre hunting in the woods at the beginning in the gold, and then more woods. And then again, when you open it up, you have this beautiful like gold shiny paper. And then on the inside, you have the rose and thorns on each of the pages. And then on the inside, you have like the little flower detailing around all of it. So they are so beautiful. When I reread ACOTAR earlier this year, I did not read out of this copy. I don't know if I ever will read out of this copy, which I know for some people that sounds ridiculous, that I'm not ever planning on like physically reading this one. But I just want to keep these in pristine collector's edition condition. So, but they're so beautiful. And then lastly is books that I want to read this year. There are tons that I want to get to. Every single month I'm like, these are the books I'm going to get to this month, and I never do because I'm such a mood reader, and I'm like, I don't really feel like reading that anymore. But the books that I like need to get to by the end of the year, I picked out 3 that I'm like, I want to make sure that I get done. Like, I won't feel accomplished if I don't read these by the end of the year. And the first one is A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I had this on pre-order last year. You can see I'm on like chapter 2 of it. Am I on chapter 2? Oh no, I'm on chapter 3. And I have not finished it yet. Hunger Games was my ride or die book series when I was younger. It is what got me into reading when I was younger, and I'm as excited as I am for this book. I'm also scared because I don't want anything to like taint the fond, like perfect kind of memories I have of the Hunger Games. So I've been putting this off for some reason. Like, I can't wait to read it, but also like I keep on putting it off. But I just need to do it. It came out last year and I never finished it. And I need to finally bite the bullet and finish it. I'm just like worried of it tainting anything. And then second, I would need to read Dead Man Walking by Gianna. A lot of Gianna Darling in this video, I guess. Pop off. I need to read, this is the 6th book in the Fallen Men series, and just today, actually when I'm filming this, she just announced that the 7th Fallen Men book was going to be coming next year. But I want to get around to reading this. I want to be completely caught up in this series and like be ready for the new one in 2022, and just have these first 6 like done and read by the end of this year. And then the last book is Fragile Longing by Cora Riley. I have read every single one of her Mafia books. I think I don't know if she's written any other like contemporaries, but I've read the entire Born in Blood Chronicles, the entire Camorra Chronicles, Sweet Temptation, and Fragile Longing is the last one that I have. So I want to read that one so that way I have like her Mafia world completed. So I haven't heard the best things about it, but I still want to read it nonetheless. So those are the three that like I for sure want to get around to. Okay, and lastly are my favorite like community members. So I don't really like talk to anyone. Like I'm like really small, as you can tell by my numbers. I'm like a very small person here, so like I don't really like connect with a lot of people in the community, but I watch a lot. And I have been watching a lot, so obviously I feel like some of the staples that kind of everyone already knows, but still I'm gonna throw them out there anyways, are Jess from Peace Love Books and Laura from Lovely Like Laura. Those two were the first two ever booktubers that I ever found, and I never miss a video of them. Also, I'm gonna throw up there Riley Marie. Never miss a video of hers either, and I've been watching her for years too, and her voice is very soothing too. Like there's something about hearing her talk, like even in her reading vlogs, when I'm like not super interested in the books that she's reading, I still just listen to them in the background because it's just like soothing to listen to. Yeah, Mary at More to Mary. I also watch all of her videos. Again, her and I read probably the most similarly out of any of the other booktubers that I watch. Like her and I, like pretty much anything that she's talked about, I've either read or I have on my TBR or like I know that I'm interested in. So I think her and I's reading tastes match up the most. So I love watching her videos as well. And then Tamika from Library of Library of Tomes. She has so many great like recommendation videos and vlogs, and she also has some like book cover makeup videos which are so fun to watch. Her tastes are more on like the dark romance side of things, which I mean, I read quite a bit of dark romance too, so whenever I need like a dark romance rec, I'm like, I'm gonna go check out something of hers because I trust her opinion on those. And then lastly, I just found her channel the other day and I've been back watching some of her videos, and again, I think like her and I have pretty similar taste too, and that is Read by Lucy, and I've been catching up on a lot of her videos too. I know she reads like quite a bit of like fantasy, but also a lot of romance, and I know she just read Birthday Girl in a reading vlog. And so as like I've been watching more of her videos, I think like her and I, you know, have similar tastes and something that I enjoy watching. And again, I love her accent. So those are like kind of the 6 main booktubers that I want to like mention in this. As I said, like some of them you probably already know, but hopefully there's at least like 1 or 2 that you don't know of. That's this video. I don't really know what else to say. I don't know what's coming next because I'm bad at planning. But anyways, I'll see you when I see you.